conventional leap like we're doing in Touch. You want somebody who can handle it dramatically and who the audience trusts. And there was no better choice for us to fill this role than Kiefer Sutherland. Yes. Kiefer led our huge international hit 24, and he took the fans on an incredible ride that was unparalleled in network television. He's an Emmy and Golden Globe Award winner. We're so happy to have him back again on Fox with us this spring, and we're really happy to have him with us here today. Please welcome the executive producer and star of Touch, Kiefer Sutherland.
Nice to see you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Really well done. Thank you.
All right, we'll do some questions.
Okay.
Take some of your questions.
I'm going to start, and then we'll throw it open to you guys. So I have your questions ready.
That was a great speech, bud.
Wow, you had to say that.
You like the speech?
No,
Good. No, it was really good. Kiefer, I'm going to start with you. We've just seen this trailer. Many of the people in this audience have just seen this for the first time ever. Yeah. So, quite,
I just saw it for the first time ever.
Did you?
He
Did
did.
you really? What'd you think?
To begin with, I just want to thank you all for coming out. It means the world to us that we could borrow you for this hour. I was blown away by it. I didn't expect to come back to television as quickly as I have. 24 was an unbelievable experience for me, both creatively and personally. And I really wanted some time to digest that. And there was actually a lot more to digest than I had anticipated. There were some films that I had wanted to do. There were things I was developing. I was taking my time with that. And there were things I was reading. And not that they were pedantic, but they were kind of in a very familiar stream. And I got a call from Peter Chernin, and I got a call from Kevin, and both asked me, I was doing a play at the time in New York.
That's right.
Both asked me to take a look at the script, and I said, well, I'm really not anticipating going back to work at this time, so I don't want to waste your time. And they said, trust me, just read it. And
It did the double whammy on you.
And I remember I was at about page 25, and I remember I put it down, I took a deep breath, and I went, shit. And I opened it back up, and I finished the script, and I phoned a person that I've been working with for 20-some odd years, and I said, did you read it? And she said, yes. And I said, we have to do it. There's no way around this, right? And she said, pretty much. It was the depth of the storytelling, and even though through the trailer it might feel like a very large concept, and it is, and Tim will talk to you about it, it's a genius concept. But at the root of the story, it is a very intimate, personal story that has a thrilling aspect to it, that has drama attached to it, that has, in very odd circumstances, when you witness a father in this position with a son who he can't touch and he can't speak to, and is trying to find alternative ways to communicate, there is sad humor in that as well. It had everything. And unlike my experience on 24, when I talked to Tim, I said, what is one of the things you want to accomplish with the show? And he said, I want it to be unabashedly emotional. And my job in 24 was to actually hold all of that emotion back. And so for me to hear that as an actor was such an open door for me. And for all of those reasons, I knew I made the right choice when I accepted the opportunity, and through the entire process of making Touch and up until this day, it is one of the things I'm most proud of and most excited about its potential.
Great. It was funny, when I was watching the trailer with all of you, I said to Kevin, this looks, high energy and all that kind of stuff. I mean, 24 was so high energy. This is a different kind of high energy, right? Or is it, I mean, how does that work for you? You said more emotion.
There are some familiar grounds. I mean, I remember when people would say, well, I didn't see the first couple episodes of 24 this season, so I think I'll wait for the DVD. And I said, well, it's pretty simple. The format for 24 is Jack Bauer's going to have a bad day.
Yeah.
It's not that hard to catch up. This is a little more complicated than that, which is certainly, for me, very challenging.
But not serialized like that.
But there's also some very familiar ground. This character, his son is never going to get better in the context of what we believe better is. He's never going to have the normal relationship that a normal father and a son would have. So he's up against it already. And so there's a very similar groundwork there that I can attach myself to and understand from that previous character. But again, it's the openness that this character provides for me that is, I think, what actually becomes really challenging and very exciting because there are circumstances that the son puts the father in that are very far out of his wheelhouse, and that are situations that far exceed his own expertise in certain areas. And when someone is struggling with that, to deal with a circumstance that is in fact larger than them, panic starts, and all of the thrilling aspects that we consider in the genre of a thriller start to take place. And
It's
so,
interesting. You know, Tim's just going, yep, that's
Yeah,
it.
no,
That's what I wrote.
explaining it.
Yeah, that's good. So Tim, let's bring you in. I mean, obviously we all know you from Heroes. Heroes had a lot of special effects. It was kind of sci-fi.
Yeah.
How is this different from that? And
Well,
does it have an arc?
It's quite a bit different in some ways, and yet it does borrow from certain elements from Heroes. One is that it attempts to tell stories on an international scope. So the show involves characters from different parts of the world who are interconnected through a thread that connects them, that you have to participate in as an audience to try and figure out where that thread is. So it has that in common, the international theme, but it also takes something from Heroes. We talked a lot about interconnectivity in Heroes, these disparate characters who came together. This takes that theme and really crystallizes. It's a show that's all about interconnectivity and how we are. It's the emerging story, I think, of our time, is that we are more connected than we ever dreamed we were, both biologically and spiritually. Our lives are connected. And this show definitely tries to take that theme and really elevate it and put it at the center. Another way that it differs from Heroes is that I'm sort of bound and determined to try to tell stories that are standalone each week, that have a beginning and a middle and an end, to not live or die by the cliffhanger each week. And so that's
Yes,
the
we all
other
remember
way.
the Heroes cliffhangers.
Yes,
Yeah.
and you can be elevated by that, and you can also suffer from the cliffhanger. And so on this show, we are going to attempt to tell a story every week that has a beginning, middle, and end.
But it still has an arc, and it still has a very big idea.
Yes, it has a big idea of what is happening and why is it happening to Kiefer's character's son, and is it happening to other people out there, and are there other people that can see the connections in the world? And that story will have for the deep fan of the show, they'll be able to follow that mythology over the course of the series, but never letting it get in the way of enjoying an episode in and of itself.
You know, when Kevin was giving his speech, he talked about digital a lot and multi-platform, and you used the term creative disruption that we're going through right now. Now, you've been one of the writers, the talent who've thought about this, and on Heroes there was a lot of fan zones and web zones.
Extensions of the show.
Extensions and
Yeah.
things like that. How do you foresee this happening with Touch? Is it going to be a 360 experience as well?
Oh, well, very much so. I mean, I think anyone that is pitching a show right now, and as Kevin talked about, anybody that's pitching a show that's not thinking about how it's going to live across multiple platforms, I really think doesn't have their eye on the idea that the audience is. Once I started to see that the audience was fragmenting and going to all these different platforms, it became my job as a storyteller to try to figure out how to reach them. And it's a very simple, I don't have any magic bullets, and I don't know that I have, learned that much over the years in doing this. I just know one simple idea: you have to fish where the fish are. And in this case, the audience seems to be fragmented in so many different ways. And if you can create a virtuous cycle between, as you were saying, that device that's in people's hand 80% of the time while they're watching television, the idea is to create a virtuous cycle between that device and what's on television, so that you keep feeding the audience back and forth. And with a show that has as its core theme the idea of interconnectivity, I would love for the experience of being a fan of Touch to have that same theme built into it, that you are connected to other people while connecting to the show. They're doing it anyway, as we all know. The audience is out there congregating and forming community around shows. We're just going to try to curate it more and be at the front of it.
Any things in particular you can tell us about that will happen in the 360 arena, or haven't you kind of
Well,
thought
I mean,
that
we've
through yet?
thought about all sorts of things. We are very interested, as was brought up, this idea of a synchronous experience. I think that that's something that that this kind of show that wants to create fandom. As I said, people will text one another if you don't create that experience for them to have a synchronous experience.
Yeah, cool. You know, Kiefer, you've embraced the web as well. I mean, it's interesting. You're one of the few A-list actors that's really gone into webisodes and things like that. What was the most recent, The Confession?
We did a confession with John Hurt, and
why did you do it? I mean, you know, why somebody your stature get into webisodes? Is it just a new format?
me, I just wanted to see. Well, it was twofold. Creatively, Brad Merman wrote a wonderful piece, and a friend of mine who creates content for the internet, wanted to try and do something that was, at least from a production standpoint, more evolved than, and try and make as good looking a piece as you can, and see what kind of audience is out there. So creatively, I wanted to do the piece because I thought Brad Merman wrote a wonderful thing, and I also wanted to find out how difficult it would be to access an audience out there. I am not the most technically proficient person out there, and trying desperately to catch up as fast as I can.
Okay, we'll set up
so
your
it was-
Twitter account later.
Forget the Twitter account. You were trying to talk him into using email last night.
Email, oh my God. We've got to get you on email. Yeah.
Start with some training wheels.
I like it, though. I like it. It's old school.
There's the headline. Kiefer Sutherland decides to
Man,
embrace email.
I think it's great.
But it's that was a secret, fellas.
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
They'll never tell.
You know, and it was an interesting process, and we did find an audience. I think the next time out we'll find a larger audience. I think we were not as coordinated as we needed to be when we released in the United States to then get into Canada and Europe.
Right.
And things, what I did learn was things that moved by at such an amazingly quick pace.
Yep.
We had unbelievable interest generated in the UK and in France, and by the time we managed to get all of that together and the deals organized and everything, they were gone. And I think what Tim talked to about touch, that something that we really want to do and that we're really excited about is trying to release this globally at the same time. Might not all be on the exact day, and obviously time zones and everything else will play a part into it, but at least close enough so that audience members, let's say we create an area for all of our audience to kind of congregate to, that someone in Africa or someone in Australia or someone can be talking with someone in Europe, and what about the show at that point moved you the most, and what didn't you like about the show, and sharing specific interests, and all of a sudden those groups will start to form themselves as well, and that to me is an unbelievably exciting opportunity, not only just as a producer, but also creatively, because the information that we're going to get back is going to be unbelievably insightful.
Yeah, and as I
Day
said,
and date release? Worldwide?
Yeah, I don't want to be
We're
held to day and
trying.
date. I think Kiefer's saying it correctly.
We're trying.
It's really, we're going to get as close as we can, and it's not even about the date as much as about coordinating the launches and the marketing of it so it all happens at once, including the digital. I mean, we'd love to tie in with other digital efforts at local networks going forward.
Cool. What, Tim, you were going to say
yeah,
something.
no, it's
Sorry.
just, I was just going to reiterate that the audience is finding each other anyway. And so you don't want to be caught way behind the curve of people having already heard about the show and not being able to experience it. You know, it's my career has been, as life is, as you get older, a quest to stay relevant, and you want your shows to be able to stay relevant to where the audience is at that time.
Yeah, yeah. So Kiefer, you'll be happy to do 360 stuff. I don't know what it will be. But
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, we both know how important it was for us to be here for the same thing, is to create the interest in that.
Yeah.
And look, we need all the help we can get. It's a very big idea, and
You know, there's nothing new. The show is the driver.
Sure.
Without it, there's nothing.
Sure.
But the fact is, just tacking on that as part of marketing is just not going to cut it anymore.
Right.
Tim started day one with the ideas, the creative ideas, trying to make them as robust and interesting as the show itself. And that's the idea.
Yeah, the audience really just wants more of the show that they love. And if it starts to look a little if it starts to not look and feel like the show that they love, they will let you know very quickly.
Yeah.
And so you have to keep that thread of authenticity between that content and the mothership of the show
Right.
as pure as you can.
Right, okay. Let's go to the audience,
Yeah,
right?
sure.
If we could bring up the lights so I can see just a bit, because it's very hard to see
Wake
out
up.
there.
Wake up, the lights are coming up.
And if you have a question, if you could, raise your hand quite high and sort of give me a wave, because it's hard to see here.
There we go, there's some lights.
There's one back there that I can see. And do I see anybody else here? No? Okay, this man here, do you see him up? If you go back, you go back there. Wave your hand. There you go.
Hello.
Back. Sorry. There she goes. Okay. And who are you, sir?
Hi, thanks. Oh, hello. I'm Stuart from the MIT blog
Yep.
here.
What would you like to ask?
I saw a presentation yesterday about millennial people saying that the young audience now, they're smart and they don't want to be talked down to or condescended to. And seeing the trailer made it seem like this is a really smart show. It's not kind of underestimating people. But is that quite important that as people are using all this stuff, social media, that you can create something that's got that depth and richness to it rather than kind of a bit shallower?
So dumbing down, this is not. Was there, who wants to start with
Well, I mean, clearly, when I wrote this and thought about it, I wrote it with the idea of aiming high and being a show that attempted to not only move people, but to challenge people in a sea of content out there. How do you break out? How do you make people feel? And I think that's the most important thing. Whether we challenge people intellectually or spiritually or mystically, I'm really interested in making people feel something, so that at the end of an hour of this show, you've had an emotional journey, and that to me is still continues to be the most powerful entertainment that there is. And
The art of it is to not confuse the audience, because confusion is a killer. But the fact is, this is a highly complex narrative with many, many different threads and many different plots running through. And I can just say, you just never move off of it. You're just glued to it. It's so clear and it's so engaging. And that's really the art of what they do.
I mean,
what Tim
Kiefer,
did.
for you, because it's like, as Tim said, there's a story in each episode, and yet there's an arc. Was that interesting from your perspective?
Well, more so from a producer standpoint.
Okay.
The fact that we would have a beginning, a middle, and an end has a huge impact in people's ability to watch it when they can, when they want to watch it. They're not tied from one episode to another, even though there might be arcs that will last an entire season and maybe the entire season. Each episode will have a beginning and a middle and an end. As an actor, it's certainly a lot easier to have a goal to work towards.
Yeah.
But obviously this character will span an arc that will run the entire length of the series. But certainly, we ran into this with 24. We had a very successful DVD experience on 24, but that was really by virtue of the fact that we lost a lot of our core audience because of the serialized nature of the show, depending on what they were doing that year.
Yep.
This is a very different experience, and having gone through the creative experience of watching writers try and deal with the serialized nature of a show, this becomes much more manageable.
But yes, audiences are jaded. That's not their